If you'd like to learn how to make this wonderful baked spaghetti, it's so easy. The most complicated thing is boiling the water, and dinner will be on the table in 45 minutes. So stay tuned to the next episode of Hilltop Stovetop. Hello and welcome back to Hilltop Stovetop, the show where we're teaching you how to make great meals in an ordinary kitchen. Today we're making what is probably one of the easiest casseroles that I know how to make. We're making baked spaghetti. Now the joy of this recipe is that you can make this as long as you can boil water. And it's going to be spaghetti, so the kids are going to be loving it. But it's also kind of in a casserole that you're going to cut up so it's easy to eat because it's not the long and stringy kind of spaghetti. So we're going to start off. We've got our pot of boiling water here, and we've got a whole package. This is a 900-gram package of spaghetti. You, of course, can make it in a smaller amount if you have a much smaller family. But I'm going to do the whole thing because what that's going to do is it's going to give me a big dish that I can put some away in the freezer. And we all like it when you've got leftovers that you can just warm up the next day. So we're going to take this package. And one thing that we have to remember to do with our boiling water is to add salt to it. And when you're cooking pasta, make sure that you add a good bit of salt. We're going to, 1.5 teaspoons or so into that water. And that's going to make a big difference to the flavor. If you just boil it in water, your pasta is going to be really pretty bland. Don't worry about the amount of salt that's going in there because it is going to drain off and just leave a little the appropriate flavor. Now what I have here is actually fettuccine. That just happened to be what I had in the cupboard. It could be spaghetti, could be spaghettini, doesn't matter which. So we're just going to take the whole works and dump it in here. And the instructions say 9 to 11 minutes. I'm going to make sure that that's all tucked down in there into the water properly. And we will see you in about 9 minutes. Okay, so there's our 9 minutes up, and let's see how so we said 9 to 11, and I'm going to say we should let this cook for another couple of minutes. You can tell just by looking at it that it's quite stiff still, and 9 minutes would probably have been enough if we'd used half of the package, but using the whole package, it's going to take it a couple more minutes. So while we're waiting for that, let's talk a little bit about this noodle portion because, I mean, really you can use any kind of noodles. We call it a spaghetti casserole, so we're looking for long and skinny things, but if you wanted to make it with macaroni or with shells or whatever, that's fine. The other thing would be if you are wanting to kind of go a little bit more on the keto side of things, you can use those vegetable spirals, and you can buy them in the frozen food section, or you can make your own if you have a vegetable spiraler. But I'm going to be using pasta today. The other thing about this is I'm basically making this as a vegetarian dish, but if you wanted to add some ground beef or some Italian sausage or something to it, you could. So while we're waiting for that to finish, we're going to start the first layer in our pan here. And I've got 2 bottles of spaghetti sauce. Now, if you make your own spaghetti sauce, that's great, but you don't have to. So this is what's going to make this really easy. I've got 2, and I've chosen 2 different varieties. I've got a 4 cheese one, and I've got roasted garlic and onion. Make it any kind you want. And then we have a large pan, already really well oiled because this will get a little sticky in the oven. So we're going to take the first bottle and just pour the whole thing in there. Doesn't get much easier than that. So that's layer 1. Layer 2 will be the noodles. So let's see how we're doing here. We're much softer But let's take one and, ooh, this will be hot. I don't think it's quite done yet, but let's give it a try. Not quite, almost. See, and this is one, if you watched my spaghetti video, you know, if that had stuck, then we know it's soft enough. But right now, you can tell even just breaking it apart that it's still got a little bit of dryness in the center. So another minute, maybe tops, that will be it. And while we're waiting for that, one critical thing for the sauce is if you want to take a cup about this size, just dip it in to the pasta water. And because the rest of the stuff we're going to drain away, but we need a little bit of water, and that's going to have some of the nice kind of starchiness from the pasta. I mean, if you forgot, you could put regular boiling water in, but why let this go to waste? There, stuck. So we're good. To say nothing of, we are going to cook it a little bit more, so we know for sure that that's ready. Okay. All right, so we've got our cup of water, and we're going to take this, and we're going to drain it. So I've got a colander in the sink here. And I'm just going to drain that all off. I'm going to put this back on the burner. And I'm going to add in a couple of tablespoons of butter and about a tablespoon of garlic. And now this part is optional. If you don't happen to have some garlic around the house, that's okay, as long as you got lots of flavor in your sauce. I'm going to melt that up. Yep. Okay, so we're doing that up, and then we've got one package of cream cheese, just a package like this, and we're going to pop that in and just start to melt that a little bit, and we're going to pour in this cup of water. All we're doing is doing this enough that the cheese is melted a little bit, because if we just leave it like in a big chunk, we'll end up with chunks of cheese in the middle of the filling. It's almost completely melted. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our spaghetti, fettuccine, whatever you want, and we're going to dump it back into that sauce. And we're going to toss it all together. So this is the really important part, that we end up with, oh my goodness. We want that cream cheese to be evenly distributed amongst the noodles. Okay, and then we're going to take these noodles and just scoop it in on top of the sauce. So far, remember, the only cooking you've done was boiling the water. Not that hard. And then we're just going to spread this around. And then we're going to take our second jar of sauce and just drizzle that over the top. Try not to make as much of a mess as I am. And then the last thing is going to be taking a little bit of shredded cheese and sprinkling it on the top. And this is the Italiano mix, so provolone, pizza mozzarella romano, and Edam. Doesn't matter what kind of cheese you're putting on, as long as it's something that will melt up nicely. So you could have done all of this the day before and just put it in the fridge. That would have been fine. Or the morning before. But now we're going to pop it in a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes until that cheese gets all nice and brown and bubbly, and dinner will be on the table. So we'll see you in a few minutes. And there we have it. So doesn't that look gorgeous? And what happened was, as it cooked, you remember when we put it in the oven, it was filled right to the top, but it did kind of settled a little bit. And you cut it just like you would almost a lasagna. And there we have it. Doesn't get much better than this. And the most complicated thing was boiling the water. So I hope that you had enjoyed today's episode of Hilltop Stovetop, where we made baked spaghetti, and that you'll remember to like and subscribe and be ready for our next episode. Bye-bye for now.